Hey everyone, and welcome to the story of Palworld. Palworld tells its story through various diary entries you can find in the game. There are 6 types of journals that each belong to different characters. There are the castaway journals that belong to an unknown stranger, and diaries that belong to Zoe Rain, Lily Everhart, Marcus Dryden, Victor Ashford, and Axel Traverse. We'll begin with the first and longest of the series of journals you find in the game belonging to the unknown figure, the castaway. One day, an unknown researcher began to look through their map data only to find a large empty space between some islands. Out of natural curiosity, they took it upon themselves to go and find out why nobody had any knowledge about the area. While traveling out at sea, the castaway found themselves surrounded by a dense fog. While trying to get away, they were blown out of the water and washed ashore on an uncharted island. The next day, they set out to explore, finding an advanced piece of technology on the beach. With it, they began to take pictures of the island and keep a log of their findings in both their journal and their new device. After a few hours, they discovered creature after creature that they had never seen before. The entire island was full of them, but it was devoid of any normal animals. Over time, they started to use their device to record their findings about any animal they came across. Their discoveries wouldn't end there, however. In the next few days, they discovered spheres of blue light that could capture the creatures. The creatures would help the castaway as they built shelter for themselves, and so they began to start calling these helpers pals, and the spheres that contained them pal spheres. While exploring caves, the castaway found drawings that showed how to craft the spheres using a blue crystal they called paldium. They began finding ruins scattered around the different biomes and wondered about the ancient civilization that built them. After collecting more pals, they quickly noticed that each of them had different skills and built a settlement with the help of the creatures. As they continued going around the island, they wound up finding other humans. The first person they encountered shot them, with the castaway only narrowly escaping. However, they noticed that the person's attire was fairly modern. This led the castaway to wonder how the ancient civilization they theorized about could have progressed on their own. The stranger seemed to have been defending a tower that the castaway was too curious not to ignore. The next day they returned, and again the stranger attacked them, only this time the pals killed the antagonist. The following morning, they returned to the tower and found more humans shooting each other, completely unsure of why. Eventually, the castaway made it to the tower and interacted with a stone slab, instantly transporting them inside. They were greeted by a human sitting on top of a giant pal looking to fight, only to run in fear and wind up back at the entrance. The castaway wondered about the teleportation and theorized that this power could have been what destroyed the older civilization on the island. It seemed that not everyone was able to live alongside pals for some reason, even with the resources found everywhere. As time went on, the castaway managed to use another inscription they found in a cave to create a machine capable of moving their pals. Using the resources on the island, they developed more weapons for themselves as well as for the pals, arming some with guns. Eventually, their camp was attacked by a group of pals, leading the castaway to wonder why. Do the pals see them as a threat to the island itself? After witnessing pals eating other pals, they began to do the same and cook the creatures. They'd see the bodies simply vanish after some time, leading them to wonder where they went. While exploring, they'd stumble upon several large pals in different areas, furthering their confusion as to how they function. While some pals had more energy than others, this was on a different level. This confusion only got worse after finding a statue of a large pal. Were some pals worshipped by humans and pals alike? And if so, what separated them from the rest? The castaway's last entries can't actually be found in the game, but do detail their desire to go to the World Tree on the island. After going to the towers and defeating the leaders inside, however, they weren't able to access the tree. They're left in wonder as to what they still need to do to enter and uncover more secrets of the island. That's all for the story of the castaway so far, but there's sure to be more in the future updates of the game. From here, we'll move on to Zoe Rain's diary entries. From her entries, we know that Zoe has been with a group that was led by her father before he disappeared. This group is the Rain Syndicate that can be found in the game. In her father's stead, she became the boss and considers her pal to be her only friend. She met Griswold as a child after her group captured the creature. After freeing the pal, she ran away but got captured by the group shortly after. She teamed up together with Griswold to fight, knocking out the syndicate members after making a friend for life. Zoe goes into detail about an opposing group to her own called the Free Pal Alliance that they've been fighting for years. The FPA are heavily against the syndicate's treatments of pals and use of weaponry. Zoe herself isn't aware of why the groups have been fighting, and neither do any of the people she leads. It's simply gone on for too long for any of them to question it. Despite being the leader of the Rain Syndicate, Zoe is most curious about what life is like outside of the island. She knows that the tower she's protecting is important, but doesn't know why she's protecting it. There's a power inside, and she doesn't understand anything about it. In contrast to Zoe's carefree attitude, Lily Everhart, the leader of the Free Pal Alliance, is very ambitious. From her entries, we learn that when Lily first met her pal, Lylene, she killed the humans that were trying to capture her. She refused to allow any pals to be captured, and Lylene recognized what Lily did for her. In the FPA, they uphold rules that all their members have to adhere to. This includes not eating pals or overworking them, treating them as equals rather than as tools, and even going as far as to die for these creatures. At some point, Lily and the FPA allied themselves with the PIDF, the Palapagos Islands Defense Force, to help protect pals from the Rain Syndicate. This help wouldn't come cheap, however, but Lily's team managed to get the funds to pay for it. How they got the money to begin with is something that Lily is still suspicious of. Marcus Dryden's diary entries give a better understanding of the PIDF and how questionable they actually are. As the leader of the group that is supposed to uphold the law on the island, he has been doing the most harm to it. Marcus has a very easy money-making scheme selling drugs to people, arresting them, and getting his supply back from them. He despises living in a desert and gathers stems and white sand while protecting his tower. Not much else is known about Marcus, apart from the fact that he's been taking out anyone else that tries to deal drugs with his pal, Phalaris. Even Phalaris is hooked on the stuff, and Marcus wonders whether their loyalty will run out once he has nothing more to give them. Axel Traverse, leader of the Brothers of the Eternal Pyre, only has one diary where he raps about his desire to find a rival. He's confident and seems to not be involved with the other factions like the other tower bosses. The final character is Victor Ashford, leader of the PAL Genetic Research Unit, whose diary entries describe his experiments. He describes the process of trying to combine PALs, taking different parts and fusing them together. His pal, Shadowbreak, is a result of these experiments using equipment from outside the island. Like the Castaway, they're trying to figure out how the energy inside each pal works. He doesn't seem to work alone, however, as his last entry has him wondering why his lab assistant, Alex, disappeared. While the game is in early access, Palworld Story has potential if the dynamic between these rival factions were to be expanded on. The story threads of each character have been left on hold, but hopefully they'll reach their conclusion in the coming year. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can find me at youtube.com/Yorcia. I'll see you next time.